What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. I am your host, Mike Tagliere, here with you every single Sunday morning. It's week 15. That means it's the fantasy playoffs in every fantasy league. Like, I don't care if you even played a week 17. That means you're in the playoffs right now. Most of you should be in a semifinals matchup because week 17 fantasy football should not exist, guys. It really shouldn't. It should be just a week to kind of take off and then, enjoy the playoffs from there. If you want to play some DFS, obviously that's for you. But fantasy championships should not take place in week 17. But yeah, so we are here week 15. There's a lot of injury news that we're going to cover. But obviously the main reason that we're here is to talk to you guys and answer your sit-start questions and go through your toughest decisions of the week. So let's just get started with the injuries, get through them real quick. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on them because, we know them. We know what they stand for, and we'll kind of go from there. So starting first, we have Austin Hooper. He is expected to play. He was removed from the injury report after suffering a knee injury towards the end of last week. So understand that he's going to play. There's not really much else that you need to know from the Austin Hooper standpoint, but he is going to be active for this game. Deshaun Jackson is not going to play. He is battling a thumb injury. He's got a soft cast on it. He hasn't practiced in weeks. Like, things just aren't great with Deshaun Jackson right now. They've said, actually, I think last week they said that they don't even know if they anticipate him playing for the remainder of the season. So obviously, you feel free to drop Deshaun Jackson if you have him on your roster still. Kerryon Johnson is not going to play. I've been saying this for a long time that the Lions have no reason to bring Kerryon Johnson back. It's going to be, I think, his fourth week out in a row. So he is, I think he's pretty droppable at this point. I don't think you're going to end up using him, so I just don't think the Lions are going to play him. LeSean McCoy tested out his hamstring before the game. He is not going to play. I could have told you that earlier in the week. LeSean McCoy wasn't going to play. This game means nothing to the Bills. So yeah, against the Lions, he's not going to play. Chris Ivory was actually a big question mark, so I haven't heard anything on Chris Ivory just yet. But even if Ivory does play, it's not a great matchup against that Detroit run defense that has gotten a lot better with Damian Harrison ever since they acquired him right around the trade deadline. So going down, Allen Robinson, he is someone that was forced to miss some practice this week with a hip injury. That hip injury that bothered him earlier in the year. He tried playing through it against the Patriots, and then he had to miss the following week. So it may have been 2 weeks he actually missed, but he's actually expected to play. He did return to practice, a full practice on Friday, so they're expecting him to play against Green Bay. He's going to have the toughest matchup of the Bears wide receivers because he's going to match up with Jaire Alexander, the top cornerback for the Packers. So I don't think you need to attack him. I don't think it's like a matchup where you need to go after him really hard or anything like that. But I have him in that middling wide receiver 3 territory. Going down, we have Jordan Reed, the guy that's I mean, he stayed off this show for quite a bit of the season, even though he wasn't producing towards the beginning, and things they were escalating up. He's out. He's not playing. He's someone that I've dropped off my own fantasy rosters that I've had. So understand that he not going to play. Vernon Davis is going to take his spot, but they're playing, again, this is a fourth string quarterback against the Jacksonville Jaguars defense that has been really good against tight ends. I know that the overall numbers don't look great, but if you take away Eric Ebron and Travis Kelce, they've literally, I want to say that no tight end has topped 52 yards against them. So it's just not a great matchup for Vernon Davis. He should see some volume, so it's not like he's like totally off limits, but it's not a great matchup. Josh Doxson, he did clear the concussion protocol. He is expected to play. You don't want to play him. I honestly threw his name in here because we didn't know if he was going to play or not, but honestly, you're not playing him against Jalen Ramsey. Just don't do it. Odell Beckham Jr. is out. He was announced as someone that was getting better as the week went on, and that they felt like he had a chance to play, but then they announced him out yesterday. So obviously he wasn't even close to playing in this game because they would have waited up until game time to see if he was going to be out, but he is inactive. So get Odell Beckham out of your lineups. Obviously, he's not someone that I would really want to drop just because if the chance he plays next week, you're definitely going to put him in your lineup, but it stinks because who knows if you could even make it to next week without him. Going down, Doug Baldwin. He is, they're calling him a game day decision. We haven't heard anything on it today. They're saying they expect him to play, but we don't have any official word or anything like that. I do expect Doug Baldwin to play. He didn't miss practice this week. He was limited throughout a couple of the days, but I do expect him to play this week and be pretty productive. I mean, it's actually a really good matchup against San Francisco, who has really struggled with slot receivers as of late. So Doug Baldwin, wide receiver 3 territory, does come with a little bit of risk with this injury, but I do believe he will be okay. Matt Breida is expected to play. This is one where it's like it's going to kind of hurt some people that wanted to play Jeffrey Wilson, because Jeffrey Wilson, with the news that Breida is going to play, I don't think that Jeff Wilson's playable. And I say that because, we saw Raheem Mostert when Breida left the game. Raheem Mostert looked really good. In fact, he played better than Breida had, to that point in the year. But at the same time, once Breida came back to the lineup, he was relegated to the bench. He went right back. So I don't think that Jeffrey Wilson's going to play a whole lot. He's going to mix in, because I don't think that they're not going to play Alfred Morris anymore. He might even be a healthy and active. Jeffrey Wilson is nothing more than like an RB4 or 5 this week. He's just not someone that you really want to play. I'm sure I'm going to get some questions about him, but I did want to make sure you guys were aware of that. Next, we have James Conner. He was a limited participant in practice on Friday, but he is listed as doubtful. He's not going to play. When the Steelers list someone as doubtful, they don't play. James Conner, they're hoping that he comes back next week. They feel like that they can win this game, I guess, without him, but it might just be more to protect his health, because if he's coming back from an ankle injury, he goes out there, he hurts it again, he misses a couple weeks, so I think they're expecting him back next week. Don't drop him, but know that he's not going to play this week. Carson Wentz, he traveled with the team to LA, or he's traveling with the team to LA, but he's not expected to play. So, I mean, Carson Wentz I'd say he's droppable at this point. I don't think the Eagles are going to make the playoffs, and, a fracture in his back, I've dealt with that personally. I've actually had 2 back fractures in my life, and the only way to heal them is rest. Surgery is not going to do anything. It's a really small fracture from what I understand, because they couldn't see it on the x-ray, and then they got in there closer and did an MRI, and they were able to see a small fracture. So I don't expect him to play in this game, so I downgrade everyone in that pass attack. I really just don't trust anybody there. And the last name was Rashad Penny. Rashad Penny also he's not going to play this week. He was ruled out with a knee injury, which means Chris Carson is going to see 18 plus touches in this week. I bumped him up in the rankings. I don't think it's a great matchup against San Francisco, who has been actually a lot better than people think against the run this year, but he's like in that middling RB2 territory. He should get the goal line carries. This game shouldn't go south. They should be able to run the ball 25 plus times, which means Carson, again, I expect 18 plus touches. So he's kind of like someone that has to be in your lineup. So that wraps up the injuries, guys. As you can see by the graphic on the screen right now, if you guys go to fantasypros.com/NFL/game day, we have this awesome tool. So I always mention this at the top of the show in case this is your first time here, you don't know about it. if you guys watch Red Zone, you understand how like game changing that was, right? So this is kind of like Red Zone for your fantasy team. So what happens is like it imports your team into FantasyPros and then into Game Day, and then we spit out the stats that matter to you. We tell you what's happening with your fantasy team. You don't have to wonder who just scored points in my team. What's happening? We tell you that like as it happens. So check it out. Like seriously, give it a shot. I've had people tell me like I'm so glad I found out about this because it's like a feature that I didn't think existed, but it does. So all right, that is going to wrap up the start sit. Go ahead and put your questions in the chat, and if you guys can do me a big favor, hit that like button below for me. That really does help me out. Obviously, you know, we have a lot of people in here right now, and it's going to get bigger as the day goes on. We know how all this works, but really it does me a favor with my bosses. It tells me I'm doing an awesome job, and I'm going to answer as many sit-start questions as I can today. I'm going to take the full, I'm going to go all the way up until 12 o'clock Eastern time with you guys just to, try and help you guys with these questions. I'm not going to grab any in particular. Like I'm just kind of going to grab them randomly. So if 5-10 minutes goes by and your question wasn't answered, pop it in there again, and I promise I'm going to try and get to it as many as I can. All right. Good morning, Mike. Evans at Ravens or Corey Davis at Giants, half PPR. I'm going to go with Corey Davis in this one. Janoris Jenkins has been really good lately, but I do believe that Corey Davis is going to I believe he's going to evade some of Janoris Jenkins' coverage because he hasn't really been shadowing as of late. Mike Evans lines up on the perimeter about 80 to 85% of the time, which means he's going to see Marlon Humphrey. He's going to see Brandon Carr, Jimmy Smith. The Ravens defense is legit. They're just so good. The better matchup for the Tampa Bay passing game this week is over the middle of the field, like Cameron Brate to Adam Humphries. But Mike Evans doesn't go in the slot enough for me to like him very much in this game. So I'm going to go with Corey Davis here. Neither of them are like phenomenal plays. They're both like low end wide receiver twos for me, but I think Corey Davis is the one that I would go with. PPR, Nick Foles, Ryan Tannehill, Jeff Driscoll, and Doug Baldwin. Okay. So yeah, and by the way, I do want to mention that, guys. If you guys have a question, narrow it down to like 2 or 3 players. If I see like 4 or 5 players, I can't get to it because it holds up everything else. So I'm sorry if I skip over your question or if I start reading it and skip over it because I need to kind of focus on as much as I can. So in regards to your quarterback question, I mean, that's pretty ugly. I don't really want to play Foles. Since Aqib Talib came back to that Rams defense, they're a different team. Like, people still think that Foles is playable this week. I'm not one of those people that wants to play Nick Foles. It's possible that I'm wrong about it, but I think Aqib Talib back, them playing at home, I think things changed coming off that loss to the Bears. So Ryan Tannehill, not a great start against against Minnesota. So I'm going to go with Jeff Driscoll here. I think he has the best matchup. He does have some rushing upside. He hasn't really shown it just yet, but I'll play Driscoll. PPR in the PPR question, Doug Baldwin, Kenny Stills, or Larry Fitzgerald. I would play Larry Fitzgerald. I just think he's the safest option. Kenny Stills might have some upside, but I'm not trusting the matchup in Minnesota. So over the last 2 years in Minnesota, they allow fewer than 17 points per game to their opponent, and Ryan Tannehill's reportedly banged up, playing through an injury. I just don't like it. As for Baldwin, dealing with an injury himself, Larry Fitzgerald is not injured. That's a game where he probably has the best matchup on the field with Brian Poole in the slot, and that's a team that they're lacking passing options right now. Christian Kirk going down, Ricky Seals-Jones has to play some more snaps. David Johnson got some more targets last week, but I think Larry Fitzgerald's the one. Doug Baldwin or D.D. Westbrook and a half PPR. This one's really tough because I actually like Westbrook more than most this week. I think that he could be considered like a high-end wide receiver 4, whereas Baldwin I have as like a low-end wide receiver 3 who comes with some risk. So if you're looking to simply play someone and just look to blow it out of the water, like a higher ceiling, I think D.D. Westbrook would probably be the play, just because I think it's possible that he has a bigger game overall. I don't think that Seattle Seahawks pass the ball very much. We've seen that with Russell Wilson all year. Doug Baldwin is not the type of guy that's going to get 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's just not going to happen. So Westbrook's the upside play. I might say that Baldwin's a little bit safer just because I trust his quarterback play a lot more than I do D.D. Westbrook. And as I've mentioned, against the 49ers, slot receivers have just been dominating that matchup as of late. So me personally, I'd probably go with Baldwin just because I don't like the quarterback situation in Jacksonville, but I understand it. Amari Cooper or Aaron Jones in the flex, half PPR. I'm going to go with Amari on this one. So we're in the fantasy playoffs, right? And the reason that I'm going to go with Amari here is because, and this is a theme throughout the show, so pay attention to this one, guys. If you have a question, I don't get to it. If you're choosing between 2 players today and you have a boring option that's, you probably can guarantee him for 5 to 8 points, that's fine. Or if you have like an exciting option that might have, a 3 or 4 point floor, but he has a much higher ceiling, let's go with the upside. Like, let's try and win our fantasy league. Especially when it comes to like the wide receiver threes, the flexes, those are the positions where it's like, you shouldn't be like trying to like guarantee a high floor. Frank Gore isn't going to win you a fantasy championship. Isaiah Crowell wasn't going to win you a fantasy championship. It's guys like Amari Cooper that have been going off. Now, Indianapolis has been really good against wide receivers as of late, but I still think that Amari he's far and away more talented than the cornerbacks they have there. I think the scheme has been very well. However, Aaron Jones against the Bears, you're going to have a chance at a touchdown. Like, that's the thing. I don't think Aaron Jones is going to flop like some people do, but I also don't think that I don't think his ceiling is as high as it needs to be to play him over Amari Cooper. And because of that, I'm probably going to play Amari here. Beat the waiver wire with CJ Uzomah or Trey Burton. So I would this one's tough. I mean, I would probably go with Uzomah. The last time that they played against Cleveland, he saw, I think it was 12 or 14 targets. He didn't turn in, like, I think it was like 5 catches for like 39 or 49 yards. So it wasn't like a massive performance, but he has been targeted against them. And Cleveland, to their credit, they've been stopping the run the last couple weeks. So that's something that I'm going to pay attention to when I write the primer. So they might have to go through the air a little bit. So it's sad to say, but I mean, I'm probably going to go at Uzomah here. It's crazy to think that Trey Burton's just not getting targeted right now. And that's the frustrating part is I do think that Trubisky back helps him. I do think that it's possible. I rescind that statement and say that I'd rather play Trey Burton next week. It's definitely possible, but we need to see him get back on track. We need to see him get at least 5-6 targets in a game before starting to trust him again. But I think Trubisky helps. The matchup against San Francisco, it's not a great one. So, I mean, it's like, I don't feel like it's a necessity that you have to play him, but we'll revisit that next week. Hey, Mike, love the show. Need one in standard, Gus, Dixon, or Martin. Thank you. So I'm going to eliminate the risk here. I'm just going to play Martin. So Martin's in a game where I don't think Cincinnati is built to whoop anybody. We haven't seen them do that this year. It's like, that's a team that's really struggling. They just want to get a win, right? And now they're without Vontaze Burfict. They've been missing linebackers. They've been missing edge rushers. They've been missing defensive tackles. Like, the Bengals team just hasn't been able to tackle, essentially. Their front seven hasn't been very good. So Doug Martin, at least we know that he's locked into, I think, 15 touches in this game. Whereas like Gus Bus and Kenneth Dixon, those guys, it would not shock me if Kenneth Dixon had more touches this week. And that's the thing. Some people are going to be shocked to hear that because it's like, whoa, this guy's been pretty good. Dixon's been better. Dixon has been better with the limited work he's been getting. They've been ramping up his workload. John Harbaugh talked about it this week and said that we are going to get Dixon more involved, that we need to get him more involved in the offense. So I do believe that I think it's going to be a timeshare between those two, like, legitimately. But I think that Dixon, it could shock people, the role that he has. Start 2 of these wide receivers in PPR: Robinson, Reynolds, Samuel. I'm gonna be going to the Rams game in person. Karma. So Reynolds is like, he's like the guy that you throw into your lineup at, like, just like at the hope that he catches a touchdown. I don't think that the Rams are going to have to throw the ball a whole lot in this game. Philly's defense has been terrible against the run, which is kind of crazy. They can't defend wide receivers. I just think that Goff's going to go to his reliable targets, and Reynolds didn't look very good last week. So between Samuel and Robinson, this is where I'm going to go Samuel. And the reason I'm going to go Samuel here is because he's coming off 2 games where he has seen, I think it's 19 targets over the last 2 weeks. So he's seeing plenty of volume. You have Cam Newton dealing with some sort of shoulder injury, but that's okay with someone like Curtis Samuel because he's being given the ball underneath. Like, he's running a lot of underneath routes. His average depth of target is, I think, around 7 yards. So it's not like Cam has to sling the ball down the field or anything like that. So I don't feel like it's a bad thing for him, like, when looking at this. And then Allen Robinson dealing with the hip injury, him missing some practice time this week, having to deal with J.R. Alexander, who has been really good against wide receivers, having Mitch Trubisky, like, he can't force things right now. Like, he has to play a little bit smarter, take what the defense gives him. And it's very unlikely that J.R. Alexander is going to leave a lot of wiggle room for Allen Robinson. So I think that's a little risk. I think Robinson might technically be the safer play, but I'm going to go with Samuel because he comes with higher upside. Corey Davis, Matt Breida, or Jeff Wilson half PPR. So Wilson's out of the conversation. It comes down to Breida or Corey Davis. I'm going to play Breida here. I feel like they gave him that week off. Like, they didn't even, what they did was once he heard it again, it was like, okay, we've done this. We've had this situation over and over with you, Matt. We need to put you on the bench for a week. We need you to heal up. You're just hurting yourself over and over. And this thing is just never fully healed. So they ruled him out for last week. Like literally, it was like the day after the game. They said he's not playing this week. And now to hear that he's going to play, I feel like whenever he's been in the lineup, he's been the guy in that offense. And I think we've tried to search for different reasons. We've tried to say, well, he's playing hurt. Alfred Morris is the better play. Oh, he's playing hurt. Sorry. He's playing hurt. Raheem Mostert is going to start, and now it's Jeff Wilson. Is Jeff Wilson going to get more touches? No, he's not. It's Matt Breida. It's his backfield. So I do think it's somewhat of a timeshare, but I'll take the guaranteed touches. I don't think that Corey Davis's matchup is as good as I don't think it's a matchup that you need to attack. Again, Janoris Jenkins has been playing better. BW Webb, I mean, I don't think he's very good, but again, this defense, the secondary, hasn't allowed a whole lot to wide receivers, so I just feel like it's not a great matchup. I would rather play Breida and take the guaranteed touches. Newton or Allen? Standard, please help. So, guys, I am not a fan of Josh Allen this week. So, if you have a question in the chat and you're trying to figure out, do you play Josh Allen? My answer is no. I don't like him. So, if you go through, I talked about this in the primer. So, the Detroit Lions under Matt Patricia have done an awesome job at containing quarterbacks. So before I give you the stat, I'm going to tell you, they've played Mitch Trubisky. They played Aaron Rodgers. They played Cam Newton. They played Russell Wilson. They played Dak Prescott. All those guys, right? The max yardage they've allowed on the ground is 18 yards to a quarterback. So they've contained extremely well. They've done an awesome job at containing quarterbacks. And if they take that away from Allen, he's going to be forced to throw the ball. Josh Allen's not the type to throw 3 touchdowns. He's not going to get it done through the air. Do I think that his rushing totals will be non-existent? No, but I'm telling you, he's not going to live up to his 100-plus yards a game that he's averaging over the last 3 weeks. So I'm not a huge fan of him this week. I have him down as like the QB, I think 17 or 18. Cam Newton, I would play over him. It's not to say that it's like a matchup that you feel great about Cam Newton, but at the same time, he's still thrown multiple touchdowns almost every single game this year. So it's like, I don't want to start worrying about him now. New Orleans is a team that he's very familiar with. He is at home. Cam Newton has played better at home throughout his career. So I'm not, I have Cam at number 10. I have Josh Allen at number 17. It's really not that close for me. I'm going to play Cam. I could not live with myself if I played Josh Allen in a fantasy playoff game and he wound up with like 5 points. Wouldn't be able to live with myself. That would be a long offseason. All right. Kenyon Drake or Kenneth Dixon? So I like Dixon, but I don't think I could play him over Drake. And so when you look at the games that Kenyon Drake has had big games, a lot of them have come in games where Miami has lost. And that's because Frank Gore's not on the field as much. And knowing it's later in the season, Frank Gore is wearing down. Kenyon Drake is fresh. He's got fresh legs essentially because he's not getting the ball very much. So there's a lot of reasons to like Drake in this matchup. Minnesota, they're a good run defense, but they're an even better pass defense in terms of what they allowed. I just feel like this game, the potential game script suits Kenyon Drake better. If Ryan Tannehill's a little dinged up, they're probably going to check down a little bit more. The wide receivers are probably going to be tied up with the cornerbacks there in Minnesota. So I'm going to play Drake here. I don't have to wonder about his role. Like I said, I don't think you should be surprised if Dixon takes over the starter's job. And I think that if you're sitting here right now and you don't have Kenneth Dixon, but he's available on your waiver wire, you should definitely grab him right now. Just because he's the type of guy that should be on every roster because he is someone that can take over that starting job. If something happened to Gus, or if they just decided we're going with the hot hand and he's been playing really well, he's a guy that you'd probably want to play. Tevin Coleman or Dalvin Cook? This one's Dalvin Cook. It's not all that close for me. I mean, Tevin Coleman's been playing terribly. He's someone that I want to keep. I want to raise in the rankings this week just because the matchup is really good. But at the same time, Ito Smith has outtouched him now. It's 2 weeks in a row, and I don't see that changing, unfortunately. I think it's going to be a timeshare between the two, so I don't think that there's one that's a clear-cut start over the other between Tevin Coleman and Ito Smith. So that just tells me that you don't really have to play that. Dalvin Cook's the play. Curtis Samuel or DJ Moore? Pick your poison, man. DJ Moore is my pick just because I think that he's got a safer role with the team. I think if Devin Funchess were to play more snaps in a game, he would take him away from Curtis Samuel, not DJ Moore. Curtis Samuel or Fitz in a half PPR? That one's really tough. I want to say Fitz, but Samuel's got... Man, I'm going to go with Fitzgerald here. I just think the targets are more guaranteed. Zach Ertz or George Kittle in a standard? Oh, this is Ertz. Yeah, so, I mean, that to have to choose between those, is kind of ridiculous. But George Kittle, the matchup against Seattle is not very good. Bradley McDougald, their safety that covers the tight end the majority of the time, he has done a phenomenal job. As a matter of fact, Kittle is the only player against them this year to total more than 52 yards in a game. Their competition hasn't been like great, but Kittle did have 9 targets. He finished with 6 catches for 70 yards in their last meeting in Seattle. But don't forget, that game, there was a lot of garbage time in that game. A lot. This game's in San Francisco. We don't know if that's going to be the case, but you had Nick Mullins throwing for 414 yards in that game. So I approach that one with a little caution. I'm not saying that you're not benching Kittle unless you have, some of those top 5 guys, but yeah, Zach Ertz is one of them, so Ertz it is. Tyler Lockett or Julian Edelman? Edelman's a great play this week. Pittsburgh has really been struggling against slot wide receivers as of late. I was looking at that, and I just felt like Edelman, like even in DFS this week, they priced him up on DraftKings, and I felt really good about Edelman. And I was like, wow, 7,200 on DraftKings. Like, I don't know if I could pay that. And the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, yeah, I just feel like it's some guaranteed production. Here's what they've allowed to some slot receivers over the last month. Seth Roberts last week, 5 catches for 76 yards. Keenan Allen, 14 catches, 148 yards and a touchdown. Emmanuel Sanders, 7 catches, 86 yards and a touchdown. So it's just like you look at what they've allowed to some of these slot receivers, and Tom Brady, that's his safety blanket right there. So if Joe Hayden is mixed up with Josh Gordon majority of the game, I think Edelman is the one who benefits a lot. So let's see, Trubisky or Rodgers? Oh, man. I have Rodgers higher, and I know that there's a lot of people that would probably disagree with me on that, but I think that there's more of a chance of Trubisky imploding than there is of Rodgers imploding. So he still hasn't thrown an interception and, now a record number. But Aaron Rodgers, here's the thing. So many people are scared to play him against the Bears because of what happened to Jared Goff last week, and I get it. I really do, but I'm here to tell you that Aaron Rodgers is a different breed, okay, than Jared Goff. Aaron Rodgers plays in the cold a lot. Aaron Rodgers understands what it's like to play in the cold. He also plays the Bears defense an awful lot. He's played them under Vic Fangio. I do understand that he also is missing, he doesn't have very much chemistry with his wide receivers. It does help that Randall Cobb is back in the lineup healthy because Randall Cobb has got the best matchup on the field this week. Shane McManus is playing for Bryce Callahan in the slot, so that's a matchup to target. So I think Randall Cobb is actually a good sleeper play for you guys. If you're looking for someone, if you're desperate and you need a wide receiver, Randall Cobb's a good play. But yeah, Rodgers, I don't see a situation where he throws for less than 225 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, that's kind of where I feel like he's going to be. Maybe 1 touchdown, it's with a little bit more yardage, whatever the case is. But whereas Trubisky, you guys saw how that ended up last week. I do think that the Rams are a different defense with Aqib Talib, and they were obviously with him. I do think that Mitch had some rust on him. But, again, you even go back to the first matchup between these two teams. It's not like Mitch lit them up. So I just can't trust him more than Aaron Rodgers with my fantasy life. I don't think that either of them are going to present high upside in this game. I don't think either of them are going to lose your fantasy matchup, if that makes sense. But I think Trubisky has a higher chance of busting, if that's the answer I could best give. Driscoll, Winston, Allen. I guess in that case, I'd probably go Josh Allen and just hope for the rushing touchdown. Winston's matchup against Baltimore is brutal. Driscoll, he's like a last-ditch option. Like, I have him in a 2-quarterback league. I'm playing him, but, yeah, I don't want to play him if I don't have to. Corey Davis or Aaron Jones in a half PPR. Aaron Jones, that one. I had a question earlier on Aaron Jones or someone, but it was Amari Cooper. But yeah, I'd play Aaron Jones. Give me the guaranteed touches there. I don't feel like Davis's matchup is good enough or so good that you need to attack it. Banged up Cam Newton or Russell Wilson? That's a good question. I have Russell Wilson 1 spot higher in my rankings just because I think he's safer. The New Orleans Saints defense has been a lot better. Like, people don't realize that. So I'm going to pull it up. So New Orleans defense. So remember, like, they were the team to attack. Like, you just played anybody against them. So over their last 5 games, they have not allowed a quarterback to finish in the top 10. Jameis Winston outside the top 10, Matt Ryan outside the top 10, Dak Prescott outside the top 15, Carson Wentz, QB 29, Andy Dalton, QB 27. So you could see they've been a better defense. So like Cam Newton banged up is significant, and that's something that you really need to pay attention to. Whereas Russell Wilson, San Francisco missing a starting safety in this game. Obviously, Reuben Foster, he's not on the team anymore. That team has dealt with a lot of injuries. Their secondary is not great. The run defense has been decent. So I'm going to go with Russell Wilson here. My concern about Wilson is that his his upside isn't what you want it to be, just because Russell Wilson just doesn't throw for a lot of yardage in divisional games. Like they literally just take the ball out of his hands and they just want to walk away with a win. And I can't blame them for that. But it's really frustrating because over the last 2 years, he's now played, it is, I think 13 divisional games. I can't remember what it is, the number right now. But he's played a lot of divisional games over the last 2 years. And in those games, I don't think he's topped like 240 passing yards in any of them. So the touchdown should be there. Just don't expect a crazy high ceiling out of him. Let's see. Carr or Winston? I would play Winston. That's one where I don't trust Derek Carr. I just can't trust him at all. It doesn't even matter the matchup. I don't even need to get into the matchup against Cincinnati, just because like Derek Carr is who he is, and if he's gonna have a good game, he's gonna have a good game. If he's gonna have a bad game, he's gonna plunge, and he's just going to kill your fantasy team. So Jameis Winston, he's a gunslinger. They have no run game. They're not going to be able to run the ball in Baltimore. So you're going to just hope that, that Baltimore secondary has a bad day and he puts up some, at the very worst, some yardage and he runs the ball. So I'll take Winston. Juju, David Johnson, or Diggs in standard. You guys have some tough questions. This means like you drafted really good teams because these questions should not exist. In standard, it's really tough to get away from guaranteed touches, especially in standard, because like wide receivers have more viability in PPR formats. So I'm going to go David Johnson here and just take the guaranteed touches. I mean, Atlanta has really struggled against the run as of late, so I'm not going to get cute here. I have no idea who you have on your roster that you're starting over Juju and Stephon Diggs. Those are both top 15 options this week. So I'm going to go David Johnson. Dan Arnold or Trey Burton? I'll play Trey Burton. We have no idea. So Dan Arnold, as much as like I want to say that he's like going to go back to be the receiving option, it's still a little iffy because they had him as a healthy scratch last week. Again, a lot of that had to do with him dealing with not him dealing with the game, actually, the conditions in Tampa Bay. Like the field was really bad. It was rainy and all that. So they were going to use more like bunch formations, and they were going to kind of like stack tight ends to run block. And he doesn't run block all that much, and he's not very good at it. So Dan Arnold is more of like a wide receiver that's used in a tight end role. So I just don't think that I can confidently say that I know he's going to be the one out there, even though Carolina is an awesome matchup for tight ends. I'll go Trey Burton. PPR, Jordan Howard or Deion Lewis. In a PPR, I'd probably go Deion Lewis. Jordan Howard, I will say this. I've been dogging Jordan Howard all year. He looked better than he has all year last week against the Rams. I thought that was his best game. And it was like, he put up 100 yards rushing. He didn't score a touchdown, but he looked good. But at the same time, I am not going to rely on him in a PPR format because he might catch one pass. Like that really drags down his floor. It drags down his ceiling. Whereas Deion Lewis, great matchup. Him and Derrick Henry have an awesome matchup against the Giants this week. No Landon Collins really hurts them. Losing Damon Harrison has killed them. So they've really struggled against opposing run games as of late. They have, ever since trading away Snacks Harrison, they've allowed 4.74 yards per carry. There have been 5 of 7 teams to rush for at least 114 yards. So I feel like it's a good matchup. All right, save me, Mike. I will try. Drake, Wilson, or Curtis Samuel in my flex. All right, so again, Wilson is out. So you're not going to play. So understand Matt Breida is playing. Jeff Wilson is not an option for me, especially when you're comparing him to Drake and Curtis Samuel. This is a standard league. We just talked about the importance of wide receivers in PPR formats. So I'm going to go with Drake here. Give me the guaranteed touches. I understand that Samuel has game-breaking upside. He does, but so does Drake. Drake can catch a pass, take it for 55 yards, like he did in that game-winning play against the Patriots last week. That seems like it was longer than a week ago. But yeah, so Kenyon Drake's my choice here just because he has guaranteed touches. I would say that he's guaranteed more touches than Curtis Samuel, and Drake has just as much potential to break a big play. So I'll go Drake. Happy to hear you're a fan of the podcast. Definitely appreciate you listening, man. Aaron Jones or Sony Michel in PPR? In a PPR, that's tough. I would say Sony Michel in a standard, just because I think Sony Michel scores a touchdown here, if not 2. But in a PPR, Aaron Jones is a lot more involved in the passing game, and if the Bears pass rush gets to Rodgers, he may dump down to Jones. I'm going to go Aaron Jones here in a PPR, just because Sony Michel, I think he's caught like a couple balls this year. Like he's not. That's the crazy part, is that Sony Michel is actually a really, really good receiver. They just haven't used him in that role, which is really odd. They really should, but they're not. So I'm going to go Aaron Jones. Bears or Bills? Oh, I'll say Bills. I'll say the Bills at home. I don't know. That's tough. I mean, benching the Bears doesn't sound like a good idea. It never sounds like a good idea. So that's really tough. I don't know if I would have the cojones to bench the Bears, but on paper, I'd say the Bills might be the better play against Stafford. Stafford is down to he's got Kenny Galladay and TJ Jones, and that's like it. Like, Bruce Ellington's not playing this game. Marvin Jones obviously not playing. Kenny Galladay not playing. Golden Tate gone. It's so bad for Matthew Stafford, man. Choose two. Golden Tate, Larry Fitzgerald, and Dante Pettis. Bench Golden Tate. Don't trust him. Edelman or Cooper, full PPR. Who, a lot of people are going to call me crazy on this one, but I think I would go Edelman in a full PPR. I have Edelman in standard formats. I have Amari Cooper, I think, a couple spots ahead. Yeah, I have Amari Cooper at 12, Julian Edelman at 14 in standard, but in PPR, I would go Edelman. I just think he's a safer play. By the way, just came across, T.Y. Hilton is officially active for this game. Chris Ivory is out. So the Bills running back situation is not good. That's putting it lightly. But yeah, I'd go Julian Edelman. I just feel like he's a little bit safer. I love Amari. You guys know this. I am number one in the Amari fan club, but the Colts have been potentially limiting to wide receivers. And a fun fact that was shared on our podcast this week, Justin McMahon, give him a shout out. He basically said that Amari Cooper, for as dominating as he's been, Michael Gallup actually has more air yards, I think it is, over the last 3 or 4 weeks. So Michael Gallup is he's kind of like teetering on the guy that's going to eventually break out. Like, he's going to have a big game. And that obviously would impact Amari Cooper. So I'm not worried about Cooper's production going forward. I'm not necessarily worried about playing him this week. But when you're talking about versus Julian Edelman, I just feel like Edelman might be a safer play. Corey Davis versus Adam Humphries, half PPR. That one, I'd go Corey Davis. Corey Davis, it is a little worrisome that his targets have gone down a little bit as of late, but I'm going to go him. Adam Humphries, he has the best matchup on the field for Tampa Bay, but I don't know how high his ceiling is. I feel like Adam Humphries is the better boring play. If you're looking for a boring floor, if you're looking for that guy, I think Humphries is a lock to catch 5 passes for 50 yards. I don't think he's going to catch much more than that, though. I don't think his ceiling is very high. Whereas Corey Davis, he could wind up with 3 catches for 40 yards, but his ceiling, is 8 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown. You know what I mean? So Corey Davis would probably be my choice. I know Jax is your number 1D. How volatile do you think they are? I mean, they're at home in a game they're favored by 7.5 points against a 4th-string quarterback who's missing 2 starting offensive linemen and a running back that offers nothing in the passing game, and Adrian Peterson. So I mean, they don't have any wide receivers to throw to. They're missing their starting tight end. There's so many reasons that I just feel like Jacksonville is a good play. I don't think they're very volatile at all. I mean, I'm playing them in a couple DFS lineups, so I do like them. Jalen Samuels or Mark Ingram standard. Man, that's tough. It's really tough because the way I'm looking at it is that, when we figure out how the Patriots, match up with opposing teams, this one's really close for me. I'm probably going to say Samuels, but it's really close. So the way that the Patriots handle opposing teams is the way I think that they're going to handle the Steelers pass catchers this week. I feel like you're going to see Antonio Brown shadowed by Stephon Gilmore. They're going to be on one-on-one a lot of time, and I think Antonio Brown can win that matchup. It is a tough one, but I think he can win it. You have Juju Smith-Schuster. He's going to be bracketed. I believe he's going to be mix and match. I think they might slide Jason McCourty into the slot, just bracket him with a safety, so you might see Juju bracketed in coverage. Even when he goes outside, McCourty's there. So if they do that, you have to kind of look at the other options and say, okay, Vance McDonald, he's someone that's not seeing more than 5 or 6 targets a game. So that's he can do some damage against New England with that. But then you have to okay, where's everything else going? If those 2 guys are taken out, not taken out or limited. And I think you have to look at someone like Jalen Samuels, who's used a lot in the passing game. So I would go Samuels here. The Saints run game has been struggling as of late. Carolina's not a pushover when it comes to against the run. They're very close, but I'm going to go with Samuels. Standard, Drake, Dixon, or Pettis, or pick up Murphy. I'm not going to pick up Murphy. I don't want to play him. I really don't. It's not a good matchup against Detroit either, and we have no idea how they're going to handle that. So, Drake, Dixon, or Pettis. I would probably go with Drake here. I think I'd go with Drake because, as you mentioned, it's a standard league. So PPR, I might give the edge to Pettis. But being a standard, we're going to go down to the running backs. And I think that Drake just has the more solidified role. Dixon has upside. He sure does. And the matchup is really good against Tampa. But it's a better matchup than Drake. But I can't guarantee Kenneth Dixon for 10-plus touches. I think I can this week for Kenyon Drake. Did Mike talk about Lamar Jackson yet? No, I have not talked about Lamar Jackson. He comes with some risk, and that's the thing. I think some people are kind of overlooking this, is that with Joe Flacco back active, we heard last week beat reporters were saying that they were going to involve Joe Flacco on some snaps. They're going to use different packages when they get in the red zone or whatever. I actually believe that. I did believe it, and then he was announced as inactive, and it's like, okay, he's inactive. Now he's back to the backup. I know they announced that Lamar Jackson is the starter, but this is also a team that's fighting for a playoff life. They're trying to make it in the playoffs. And if they fall behind for whatever reason, it's going to be very hard for them to continually run the ball like they've been doing with Lamar Jackson. And if they're forced to go to the air, that's a problem because Lamar Jackson is just not, he's not a pocket passer right now. He's not someone that you want to throw the ball 30 plus times. Flacco would be better suited for that role. So if the game goes south on them, which I don't think it should, but there's a possibility of that. It adds a level of risk. And know this, even though Lamar Jackson has rushed for as much as he has, this and that, he hasn't finished better than I think the QB 11 in his 4 starts. So I'm not saying that Lamar Jackson's a bad play. I have him currently, I think I have him as my number 13 quarterback. So I don't think he's a bad play against Tampa, but I also think that there's some risk that some people don't talk about when saying to start him. So yeah, I have him at number 14. So I think he's a fine play, but I would start him over guys like Josh Allen. I would start him over Matt Ryan, over Jameis Winston. But if you get up to guys like Russell Wilson, Cam Newton, and Brady, even Rodgers, I couldn't do it. Jameis Winston or Derek Carr, I answered that one already. That one was Jameis Winston. Kyle Rudolph over Kittle based on matchups? No, I can't do that. No. Kyle Rudolph is just kind of like the forgotten man. I don't know. Kirk Cousins, there was a chance, like the last game they played, it was Kyle Rudolph and I'm forgetting his name right now. Why am I forgetting his name? I don't know why I'm forgetting his name. But their other tight end on the Vikings roster, they were running almost a similar route. They were both coming across the field. Both of them were open. Cousins had them both, and it was in the fourth quarter. And he chose not to throw to Rudolph. Like Rudolph was probably even more open. So, I mean, like the thing is like, and you look at it, the stats, they all back this up. There's only been 2 good games this year that Kyle Rudolph's had. They've both been up against the Packers in divisional games where they know the opponent really well. Miami has struggled at times against tight ends, but I'm not benching Kittle for Kyle Rudolph, a guy that's seeing like 3 or 4 targets a game. Hey, Mike, Sony Michel or Aaron Jones? So that one I think I answered already. I was saying it depends on PPR or standard. If it's PPR, I'd probably go Aaron Jones. If it's standard, I'd go Sony. Need upside at quarterback, Cousins, Wilson, or Lamar Jackson? You need upside? Cousins. Yeah, so Miami, their defense has really struggled as of late. They've allowed 10 passing touchdowns in their last 4 games, and then 2 weeks before that, they allowed 5 passing touchdowns. This is an offense that needs to get back on track, right? Like, they need Kirk Cousins to start going. Otherwise, this team's not going to work. Like, they need to get the ground game going, but their offensive line isn't very good. But they need Cousins to play better in order to take the pressure off the run game. The matchups this week should allow him to do that. So I like Cousins as the upside play. If you're looking for safety, I think Russell Wilson's the guy, but Cousins has more upside this week. James White or Aaron Jones PPR, I'd play Aaron Jones. James White, his role has decreased with Sony, Rex, Gronk, and Edelman there. It's just like his role has decreased as the weeks have gone on, and the Steelers haven't been necessarily very bad against pass-catching running backs. T.Y. Hilton or Diggs, I'm going to play T.Y. I'm going to assume that he's okay. He is active, so that's obviously good. I mean, there's some risk with playing him for sure. But Diggs, the matchup with Minkah Fitzpatrick isn't a great one. Like, I think Diggs can win that matchup for sure. So I'm going to go with T.Y. here. Take my chances. Let's see. Leonard Fournette or Sony Michel? Leonard Fournette. I have Leonard Fournette as a top 7 running back play this week. CJ Uzomah or Ian Thomas? I'm going to go with CJ Uzomah. Ian Thomas, yeah, it's very nice to see the targets that he got last week, but at the same time, he's in a matchup with the Saints. The Saints have been so good against tight ends this year. I threw this out last couple weeks ago, where they still have yet to allow a tight end more than 54 yards receiving. No tight end has caught more than 5 balls against them. They've played against Zach Ertz. They played against Jordan Reed. So I don't think Ian Thomas is a guy you need to target. Rodgers or Winston? Rodgers. Prescott or Rodgers? Rodgers. White or Breida PPR? That one's tough. I'm going to go with Matt Breida on it, though. I think he's going to see 15 touches. I think he's okay. Gus Edwards or Dixon PPR, sell me one tags. It's really tough because I know as much as you guys do. What I do know is that John Harbaugh has talked about growing Kenneth Dixon's role and that he wants to, and it makes sense because Kenneth Dixon is the best running back on that team. Gus Edwards is a downhill runner. He's only going to get what's blocked. He's not going to waste any time behind the line of scrimmage. Kenneth Dixon's kind of like a mix in between that and Alex Collins. He can break a lot of tackles. Like he does run downhill. He can break tackles. He has a little juke to his game. He's involved more in the passing game. Gus doesn't catch passes. Like legitimately, he's played 4 games now? He has not caught a single pass. I don't even think he's been targeted. So it's Dixon for me. Alshon Jeffrey or Dante Pettis? It's a good question. At this point, I'm probably going to go Pettis. If Carson Wentz was playing, I would go Jeffrey. But being it's Nick Foles, can't do it. I'm going to go Dante Pettis. And just give me the upside here. Corey Davis, Tyler Boyd, or Curtis Samuel, half PPR. That one's tough. I probably go Tyler Boyd here. I feel like he's the safest option. He also comes with some upside. Chris Carson or Jalen Samuel standard. I recently put Carson there. I moved Carson ahead of him. And that was because we found out that Rashad Penny was out. So I'm going to go with Chris Carson here. I just feel like he's a running back that's guaranteed 18-plus touches. There is a possibility that Tom Brady and the Patriots come out and they put up points on the board and they're not going to run the ball in Pittsburgh. They need to get the ball down the field. It's not to say that Samuels is going to disappear in that game plan. He's not. He's going to catch passes. But at the same time, I think he loses some of his upside at that point in terms of what he can offer you, rushing touchdowns. He might not even get goal line carries, to be honest with you. Stephen Ridley might get those. So there's a lot of factors that go into Jalen Samuels where I think he's a solid play. I do think he's a solid RB2. The matchup is tough for Carson. It's not an easy one against San Francisco, but it's not like the Bears. So I'm going to go with Carson here and just take the lock. The guy that I know is going to get goal line touches. The guy I know he's just heavily involved in the game plan every single week. Let's see. Lamar or Jameis? I have Lamar Jackson higher. Galladay anywhere but bench. Yeah, no. So here's the thing. We talked about Stafford, and we know it's a tough matchup against Buffalo, but I don't think that you have to bench Kenny Galladay this week. And the reason I say that is because Galladay is going to see, I don't know if there's a chance Galladay sees less than 10 targets. I really don't. And when you have a wide receiver that's going to see 10 targets, it's really, really difficult to bench him. I don't care. Galladay is extremely talented. Tre'Davious White hasn't been as shut down as some people have let him on to be. He's a good cornerback for sure. But yeah, I'm going to play Kenny Galladay over. I would play Galladay over Allen Robinson, over Alshon Jeffrey, over Larry Fitzgerald. No, Larry Fitzgerald's close, but yeah, that's basically the territory that I have him in. So, yeah, Galladay, I think you play him. I think he's a low-end wide receiver too, even in a tough matchup. Tags, PPR, pick 2. Evans, Davis. You did more than 3. I can't do it. I'm sorry. Dante Pettis or Chris Godwin. I would play Pettis. Godwin, I know you saw the 10 targets last week, but I'm worried about the matchup against Baltimore. I don't think it's a great one. If he doesn't score a touchdown, I think he really lets you down. Whereas Dante Pettis, I think he doesn't let you down necessarily. I think he comes with a higher floor. Some people were worried about Marquise Goodwin, and Marquise Goodwin, by the way, was the number 4 wide receiver last week upon his return, and he didn't return. It had nothing to do with an injury. He left the team for personal reasons. He came back after 2 weeks, and he played behind Kendrick Bourne and Trent Taylor. So I really do think that Dante Pettis' role is safe. Sony Michel or Dixon, Cameron Brate or Ian Thomas, both standard. Sony Michel for sure, and then Cameron Brate for sure. Those are my choices there. Yeah, I don't even have to hesitate on those. Go with Michel and Brate. Trey Burton or Vernon Davis? I think Vernon Davis has a higher target ceiling. I think he also has the tougher matchup. If you're playing for a floor, go Vernon Davis, because I do think he offers a floor in this game. But if you're playing for a ceiling and you're you know what, I'm willing to take the risk and go big or go home, Trey Burton. Marcus Murphy or Josh Adams? Josh Adams. PPR, Doug Martin, Tevin Coleman, Kenneth Dixon. Need 2. So Doug Martin's for sure in there. Oh, man, this is really tough. I'm going to go Tevin Coleman over Dixon just because, like, Tevin Coleman's going to have a role. We know it could be a timeshare with Ito Smith again, but he's going to have a role for sure. Kenneth Dixon, I like him. He's going to have a role, but again, I don't know, man. So Dixon is competing with two running backs essentially for those touches and those yardage. Like he's dealing with Gus Edwards and he's also dealing with Lamar Jackson. So it's tough, man. But I'll go Coleman. Let's see, James White or Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram. That's who I play. PPR, let's see. Ingram, Hooper, Uzama, and Standard. Evan Ingram moved up my rankings because Odell Beckham's out, so you know he's going to see more targets in this game. It's not necessarily a good matchup, though. That's my concern with Ingram this week against Tennessee. Tennessee has still yet to allow a tight end touchdown, by the way. They're the only team in the NFL that's still yet to do that, and that's why I'm a little worried about him. Austin Hooper coming off the knee injury, not a good matchup against Arizona. They've been relatively good. They have good safety play. Uzama, and I'm going to go Ingram here. It's not a matchup that I really like, but Uzama has just been so boring that I just can't trust him. The Raiders are such a good matchup, though. It's such a good matchup. Man, I'm probably going to say Ingram. I'm probably going to regret it, though, and it's like the 1 week where I don't tell people to play Uzama. He's going to do well, but I'll go Ingram. Good morning, Mike. Go Pack, go. I'm going to skip your question, JM, just because of that. I'm kidding. May the best team win today. Would you go Humphreys or Reynolds in PPR or pick up Westbrook? I'd play Humphreys over Reynolds. Reynolds, he's a touchdown or bust type of guy. In a PPR format, I don't think Reynolds needs to catch a whole lot of balls this week. I think Robert Woods and Brandon Cooks have great matchups. Todd Gurley's going to be fine. So, yeah, I don't think Reynolds needs to be heavily involved this week. Again, he could catch a touchdown, but I'm going to play it safe and go Humphreys. Allen Robinson or DJ Moore in a standard. I have DJ Moore a slightly higher, slightly. Mike Evans, Adam Humphries, or Doug Baldwin, full PPR. I'm probably, man, this is tough. Evans has the best shot at a touchdown. Baldwin's really close, but Humphries is the safest option. This is really tough. I mean, I'm probably going to play Mike Evans just because, he should get targeted. They may not be great targets. They may be tough for him to do things with, but, I'm probably going to play Mike Evans here. I'm closer to the start your studs guys than I am than you can sit studs. I'm closer to it always comes back to when you have a decision like that where it's really tough. It's a really tough decision. So I have to give you, I understand what you're dealing with, but you always have to ask yourself in situations like that, how would I feel afterwards? How would I feel afterwards if I sat Mike Evans and Adam Humphries had a bad game? Or, if Doug Baldwin, has to leave in the first quarter, how would you feel about that decision? Could you live with yourself? Could you live with that decision? To me, it's down, Baldwin dealing with the injury, that kind of eliminates him from this competition just because we at least know Mike Evans and Adam Humphries are healthy. Humphries comes with a higher floor. If I'm looking for a guy that's okay, I got off to a hot start. I had DeAndre Hopkins, whatever. I had, Damian Williams. If you're looking for a floor, I think Humphries is the play. But Evans is the one that I would probably play myself if all was just even keel. Kirk Cousins or Matt Ryan? Kirk Cousins. Cam or Dak? I have Cam higher. Galladay, Samuels, or Reynolds? I would play Galladay of those. Yeah, Galladay, it's just tough to pass up those targets, guys. Because again, with so many limited options in Detroit, I know it's not a great matchup against Buffalo, but I mean, when you're seeing that many targets, it's tough not to like a receiver. I mean, looking at it right now, so here, this is why. So Buffalo has been really tough on wide receivers this year, right? There have been 4 wide receivers who have seen more than 8 targets against them. I'm going to read the stat lines for you. Adam Thielen, 14 catches, 105 yards, no touchdown. Julian Edelman, 9 catches, 104 yards, no touchdown. Devontae Adams, 8 catches, 81 yards, no touchdown. And Geronimo Allison, 6 catches, 80 yards, no touchdown. So none of them scored. However, every single one of them scored at least 14 PPR points. So Kenny Galladay, that's what I'm saying. Even though he's not a high ceiling play, I'm not saying that, but he is a high floor play with the targets that he's going to get this week. And I do think that he's a lock for over 8 targets this week. Bears or Bills D? Answered that one earlier. PPR, Corey Davis, Tevin Coleman, Dante Pettis. Pick 2. Sorry. don't say sorry, Scott. You kept it to 3. You're good. PPR. In a PPR, man, it stinks, but I might sit Tevin Coleman here. Because again, guys, like he's losing touches. Like Ito Smith has outtouched him in each of the last 2 games. So even if the running backs combine for, let's say, 30 touches against the Cardinals, you're looking at maybe 14 for Tevin Coleman. I don't know if they get 30 touches. I think that's considered very high. I think 25 to 28 is more reasonable. And that could be, 12, 13 touches for Tevin Coleman in a good matchup, granted. But I don't think he's like a guy that you have to play. So I'm going to go with Corey Davis and Dante Pettis. Just take the upside, even though Coleman probably offers a higher floor than Dante Pettis. Curtis Samuel, Dante Pettis, or Mac and a half PPR. Listen to the podcast. Also just joined as NBA correspondent. Well, awesome. Happy to have you aboard, T-Box. Hopefully the correspondent thing, gets you in the direction of where you want to go. Yeah, we have some awesome, by the way, guys, and if you guys are watching this and like you're fantasy football fanatics and you guys want to get involved, we have correspondent things like where if you want to just help on a news desk, where you want to help update things, we hire for that all the time. So if you guys want to get involved in some sort of way in the fantasy world, do that. And like people notice your hard work. They really do. They'll notice the people that don't, they're lazy about it, but they're also going to notice those who do hard work, give good analysis, and you'll work your way up. So I just want to throw that out there. This is not part of the plan, but I wanted to let you guys know because I know like I would have loved to have heard that a long time ago. So let's see. But in regards to that question, Curtis Samuel, Dante Pettis, or Mac and a half PPR, this one's tough. Mac has been, let's just say, not very good as of late. Dallas's run defense they're a solid run defense. I don't know what the return of Sean Lee is going to do to them. But I mean, looking over it, the last 5 games, they have not allowed a single team to rush for more than 68 yards. Like, that's not good. They've allowed 1 rushing touchdown that time. I have Marlon Mack in a league. I don't feel great about playing him. So, I mean, between those options, I'm probably going to play Curtis Samuel. I think he should be a lock for 5+ touches. And, he has that explosiveness that he could take it to the house at any point. Mack does play for a high-scoring offense, so it's always appealing to play those guys because they have a better shot at a touchdown, especially knowing that T.Y. Hilton might be a little dinged up. But I'd probably play Curtis Samuel there. Chris Carson or T.Y. Hilton, PPR. I'm going to play it safe here and just play Carson. Hilton missing practice all week is a big deal to me. I don't like that. Granted, he's a veteran. He and Luck are on the same page, but the matchup isn't great to begin with. Dallas has been really good against fantasy wide receivers. The entire season, there's been 3 receivers all year who have scored more than 17 PPR points against them. Dalvin or DJ standard. Whoo, that's a tough one. I have them right next to each other. I'm gonna go with Dalvin on this one. I just feel like the game script is what it's supposed to be against Miami here at home. DJ, that offense is just so bad. I mean, I don't know how many scoring opportunities he's going to have, and that's kind of what breaks it for me in standard. If it was a PPR league, I'd probably lean towards David Johnson, but knowing it's standard, the scoring opportunities, what should be for Dalvin Cook, I'm going to go with him. Aaron Jones or Ebron PPR? Wow. It's crazy that this is where we are. I'm still gonna go with Aaron Jones, I think, but it's closer than people think. So Eric Ebron, we talked about this in the DFS show this week, where in DraftKings you're able to choose in your flex. You could play running back, wide receiver, tight end, whatever. And we talked about the fact that we think that this week is actually a viable option to play both Eric Ebron and Rob Gronkowski. Now the thing is, Aaron Jones costs more than Eric Ebron, but if faced with if they were both the same, I think Ebron has the higher ceiling. I'm going to be clear about this. I think Ebron has a higher ceiling. He absolutely does. But Aaron Jones comes with he's going to get the goal line carries for the Packers. They are going to score some points in the Bears. So I just think that he offers a high enough floor and, I'm not going to say a massive ceiling, but a decent ceiling. I'll go with Aaron Jones here. It's a tough one, but I don't know how you're sitting Ebron though. Cohen or Ingram in a half PPR. I'd play Ingram. Kirk Cousins or Dak Prescott. I have Kirk Cousins higher. I do. There is some variables with the Minnesota offense this week. Obviously, firing their offensive coordinator, John DeFilippo, that changes things. We don't know what they're going to do on offense. It's really tough to say, but I think they need to get Kirk Cousins going. Dante Pettis or Adam Humphries. I'm going to go Humphries here. It's close. I think there's similar options. I think Humphries is a little bit safer, and that's why I'm going to choose him. I think Pettis' upside's higher. Humphries has a safer floor, but they're in a similar category. like Humphreys, I feel like is like a middling wide receiver 3, whereas Pettis, I think, is my low end wide receiver 3 conversation. I'll look at my rankings just to make sure I'm not just saying that, but that's where that's where I think I have them. So I actually have Pettis 2 spots higher. So maybe I should take my own advice and say Pettis. You know what? Let's go back. This is a good way to close out the show. So I did say earlier in the show, when you have a decision that you're looking at it, you know, if it's a wide receiver 3 or a flex, you know, when you're in the RB1, RB2, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, those guys should deliver a higher floor. You should know what you're getting from those guys. But when you get down to this territory, you're like, okay, I'm looking for a ceiling from these guys. Like, don't go for the boring plays. Like, give up with the boring plays. Go for the ceiling. Dante Pettis offers a ceiling. So I'm going to take my own advice here, and I'm going to give it to you, Chaz. I am going with Dante Pettis. Evan Ingram or Ian Thomas, I would play Ingram with the increased targets with Odell Beckham out. Cooks or Jalen Samuels in a PPR. So Brandon Cooks or Jalen Samuels? Ooh, that's tough. I would probably go. Oh man, I guess I'd probably go with Jalen Samuels. I guess standard Josh Adams, Gus or Dixon. I'd probably play Adams there just because I feel like at least I know his role. I do think they're going to run the ball a lot more with Nick Foles under center, so that's where I'm at. And then Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins. I would play Cousins this week. That's who I would go with. I mean, I as you guys have listened throughout the show, I'm not against playing Aaron Rodgers this week. I think that he's going to be better than people think. I have him as a borderline QB1, like right in that teetering territory. But Kirk Cousins, I do think that he comes with a safe floor, and I think he obviously offers a high ceiling against that Miami team. So thank you guys, as always, for tuning in for another live stream. Hopefully you guys learned something today. I hope you guys win. That's the most important thing is win. Leave a like on the video. It really does me it does us a solid. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, obviously we're going to be delivering you guys stuff all off season, because this is like our job is to keep you guys informed as much as you want to be. And if you want to be informed, I promise you, when you hit that subscribe button, you will be informed this off season. We're going to be bringing you videos the entire time. But I'm going to be back next week answering sit-start questions for week 16. And that's the final show of the year that we're going to be doing the sit-start episode. So hopefully I can see you guys there. But good luck in this week's matchups. Wish you guys the best of luck. Until then, lights out.